Good morning, Paul. Simon French and I would like to extend a particularly warm welcome to you, Paul Smith, CEO of Morses Club. This is part of our Meet the CEO series. Morses Club is one of the UK's largest home collected credit providers. It offers doorstep loan service. Their loans are finalised with customers in their homes and repayments collected weekly. Morses Club customers can choose to take their own loan in cash or have it loaded onto a Morses Club card, which allows them to shop online, withdraw from ATMs, and enjoy discounts from selected retailers. Paul joined the company in October 2014 and has been very much responsible for growing Morses Club by acquisition and organically. He has a depth of experience in mobile payment technology as managing director of EZ Pay Limited, a prepaid MasterCard organisation from 2009 until 2012, prior to its sale to BC Partners. Paul originally started his career in the global software market before joining Phones for You Group in 1999, I think under the auspices of John Caldwell, where he became MD and was an integral part of the management team until its sale for £1.4 billion in 2006. Morses Club came to the AIM market. This doorstep lender with 200,000 customers in the UK floated in early May 2016 on the AIM market with a value of about £140 million in terms of market capitalisation. The initial public offering was at 108 pence per share. Perpignan Limited, the selling shareholder, controlled our capital, which provides turnaround and growth funding to UK businesses. It was raising at the time £68.5 million by selling down its holding in Morses Club and will be left with 51% stake in the operation, with 5.1% of the company owned by the directors. You've done incredibly well, Paul. Unbelievable. The share price since the IPO has gone up from 108 pence to 128p. That's a gain of 15.5% in very tricky conditions when we know the banking sector has not had a good time at all. Before Simon French asks you some questions, could I set the ball rolling by asking you how you found your niche in the marketplace, and whilst at the same time keeping an excellent reputation and looking after customers? And the other question I have, of course, is you don't have a banking license. And is this positive for you? I would suspect it is, for the simple reason that having a banking license now and the draconian capital problems that go with it are not something that the banking sector in the UK is enjoying. And I have to salute you for having done so well with such a broad range of customers who found it almost impossible to have a decent banking relationship with their existing banks. Paul.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for inviting me along. It's a privilege to be here. In answer to your questions, I think the niche that we've managed to find ourselves in the marketplace as a home collect credit specialist is really based on our adoption of technology within the business. So to be able to be more productive as an organisation, to be able to streamline and have better processes and systems in place that make not only the lives of the customers better, because we can offer a better, faster, slicker service, it also makes the lives of our agents and our staff easier to cope with. So we have a very happy workforce, and we have some very happy customers. The second question, with regards to banking license, we have a philosophy in the business of adopting best-in-class partners in our supply chain, and we've done that throughout the business. So for our technology, we partner with IBM, no less, who host and manage a number of services for us. And we also have a best-in-class provider for our e-money products, which is the part of the FCA regulation that our prepaid cards come under. So we went through a selection process to choose a very good partner in that respect, which means that we don't have to be the regulated entity, which, as you say, makes our life and our capital requirements much more streamlined.
Simon.
Yeah, I mean, HCC has endured for more than 100 years, and a lot of people have written that form of lending off, particularly with the advent of technology, fintech. But actually, can you give a sort of an explanation of why it endures and why the business model is so successful despite obvious competitors on your doorstep?
I think that probably the predominant reason is that the customers that use Home Collect Credit are very, very difficult to trace and to check with any degree of certainty from a creditworthiness point of view. And that's because they leave very little footprint. They do not, by and large, have mortgages. They don't carry credit cards. They don't carry bank cards. They do not pay for their electricity, their gas, their water, their mobile phone usage post-pay. They pay for everything prepay, which of course makes them quite anonymous in terms of the credit reference agencies. So that part of the market really needs somebody to visit them and to check them out and to make sure that they are creditworthy and that of course they're not getting themselves into financial difficulty by overstretching themselves. And I think that's the predominant reason that home collected credit has endured.
And the technology piece that is going on across the sector is going to guide your business going forward. And you spoke, I think, after some very upbeat first results since the listing, about the technology offering that investors can expect over the next 12 months. Can you just expand on that a bit more?
Yeah, there are really three fronts across which we're investing in technology. The first is to make our processes in the business slicker, so to eradicate all paperwork from the process of issuing and collecting back loans, and to make our head office environment far more productive by having all of the workflows interfacing with the central system directly rather than having to be rekeyed by word processor operators or something like that.
Can I just interject here, Paul, because I'd like to ask you a little bit about the demographics. Because you're attached such enormous credence and importance, are most of your clients young, between the ages of 18 and 50? Or do you have problems or issues with people my age who don't like technology in the area that you do? Because I think it's an interesting demographic which I think people would like to know about.
We have a broad section of society in terms of age groups. Probably the average age of our customers is between 45 and 55 years old. However, the largest growth sector of our customers is in the 25 to 35-year-old band. And in the last 12 months alone, we've seen that proportion of customers grow by 20%. So yes, there are some of our customers, and this is where the second front of our technology investment comes into play. There are some customers that eschew the use of technology, and that tends to be the older generation. However, we survey our customer base every single month via an independent organisation, and we ask questions about our service levels, of course, but we also ask questions about lifestyle. And the very strong message comes through from our customers that they actually want to interact with organisations using mobile phone technology, using online platforms, and I guess it's a symptom of the way in which society is developing. For example, my children will talk to each other using text messages sitting next to each other on a settee. and we are simply embracing the fact that is the societal shift.
Yep.
And we are offering our customers all sorts of means of communicating with us, including technology, but also, very importantly, still keeping that face-to-face relationship between the agent and the customer.
Can I talk about the yield and duration mix of your products and how that'll drive financial performance going through to the next 6 to 12 months? I think a lot of the viewers, a lot of the retail investors who looked at the IPO and the subsequent performance are interested and now want to know what the trigger, the catalyst for the next leg up in the share price and financial performance will be.
Yeah, I think when we first purchased ShopperCheck Financial Services, which was the second largest player in the market, and Morses Club of old was the fourth largest player, we took on an organisation that was 4 times larger than Morses Club, and we subsumed that organisation into our business and streamlined it, realised all of the synergies and so on and so forth. Morses Club's book, the average length of a loan was 39 to 40 weeks. ShopperCheck was in excess of 50. They'd been pushing their products out longer, which had the effect of increasing impairment, reducing cash yield and reducing revenue yield. So we've been on a journey to bring the ShopperCheck book back to where the Morses Club, the independent Morses Club book was. Today we are at an average combined book of 42 weeks, but we're selling out at between 39 and 40. So it will only be a matter of time before the whole book will be performing at about 39 to 40 weeks, and that will improve the cash and revenue yields further still.
And does the board have a view on the optimum balance between growth and impairments?
So in terms of book length, then the average loan length being at 39 to 40 weeks, we think is absolutely ideal. That suits our customers. They can see the next loan coming. They know what kind of performance levels in terms of repayments they have to achieve. That keeps the quality good and that keeps the impairment low. In terms of having the right kind of push on growing the business organically versus making impairment rise, it is probably around where we are now. And our attitude of mind is to say that our impairment performance will be between 22 and 25%, we think, going forwards. And that will answer the question on growth. So whatever growth comes from having that level of impairment in the business is the ideal balance. And that looks to us like a mid-size, single-digit percentage of growth yielding a lower 20% impairment performance.
I mean, David, what's coming across to me quite strongly is the nature of product development to develop organic growth. Are you looking also to bolt on any acquisitions going forward? What is the kind of the corporate view on that?
I wanted to ask that as well.
Well, it's a very fragmented market, as you know. So there are still just short of 400 individual home collect credit businesses in the UK. There are obviously three organisations that have the massive amount of market share, being Provident, ourselves, and Loans at Home for You. So there is an opportunity to purchase some of the tail end players, the smaller operators in the market. In the last 18 months, we have acquired 17 businesses for a total of £18 million. And we are acquisitive still, so we still have a healthy pipeline of opportunities. We're in negotiation with several organisations, and we will continue to make acquisitions.
Is that for geographical access, Paul? I mean, do you have an area that you focus on, and would you like to be entirely cover the whole country?
Or do you see yourself as a consolidator within the industry?
It's the latter. We see ourselves as a consolidator. So we already have 100 branch offices across the UK, and that gives us full penetration of the whole country. But we do continue to add books into existing areas where we find the opportunity as the market consolidates. And it's another important factor on the technology front that we do have presently 100 branch offices. But of course, now that we have eradicated all of the paperwork from the system, and every single agent and every single field manager is empowered by technology, we can start to look at productivity improvements, and from 2017 really look at the fabric of the business with an eye to reducing the cost further still.
I would like to take you to Morses Club Card, which obviously opens up a lot of opportunity with the leverage, the knowledge, the systems you have to expand the offering. What's the vision for Morses Club Card?
Well, firstly, the Morses Club Card was launched in response to our customer surveys that I mentioned earlier. So a proportion of our customers, over 60% of the base, with a predominance in the younger part of the base, were telling us that they wanted to spend money online. But of course, with a cash loan, you can't do that. You can't buy a flight with EasyJet or Ryanair. You can't use Amazon or eBay. You have to have the ability to spend money digitally. So we asked them the question if they would like their loans loaded onto a prepaid card, a Visa card, a standard chip and PIN card, just like our bank cards. And the answer was a resounding yes. So we provided our customers with exactly that technology. The agents can hand them over in the home. They activate the card using their tablet device. They load the money onto the card using their tablet device in real time, and within minutes that card is loaded. It is the property of the customer. The customer has their PIN number, and they can go and shop online, in store, or use an ATM. So the reason that we wanted to embrace that was obviously because it was a great piece of customer service, and we're seeing that base grow exponentially now. We've hit our first annual target within the space of just 5 months, and we will continue to see that product grow. What it offers us as an organisation is a wealth of data that we didn't have before on our customers. So we can see now what they want to buy with the loan that they take from us, the amount of money that they spend, the frequency with which that they spend, the brands that they are loyal to. And of course, we can take that data to the suppliers in the market, the retailers and the website operators, and we can show them on a macro level, clearly not on an individual customer by customer basis, at a macro level, what the behaviour of our customers is. And we can invite those retail partners to give our customers rewards by way of discounts and money off offers for their loyalty, which will, of course, then in turn reduce the household costs for our customers. So that's where the club aspect of Morses comes into play. We really want our customers to feel as though not only are we a loans organisation, but we also help them with their lifestyle.
Could I just come in for a question here? One of the messages I'm getting, which I really approve of and I'm delighted to hear, is the relationship between, on a regional basis, managers and their clients. Because I think one of the criticisms I have of the banking sector, and one of the reasons why I think we got into this appalling 30 billion PPI scandal, is that there was no eyeball-to-eyeball contact with any of their customers. And I think the clearing banks are making a massive mistake by over-exaggerating the digital importance to their business. I understand the cost savings and all that sort of thing, but the fact remains, I don't know how anybody assesses a client when he never sees him. I mean, I couldn't tell you who my bank manager was. I have no idea. Mind you, I am a perfect client because I'm never overdrawn. I'm a pain, utterly useless at a bank. But the fact remains is what I'd like to ask you, Paul, is that because you have this good relationship with your clients, or your managers do, your impairment charges are pretty small, I would think.
They are.
You know your guys. Is that right? Would I be right in that assumption?
Yes, it is a contributing factor that we have a good symbiotic relationship that exists between an agent and a customer, and there is a very close relationship between our field managers and our agents in turn. So they meet with each other every single week in one of those regional offices that I described. They also meet out in the field. So managers regularly walk the round with an agent, meet the customers, and do compulsory checks over quality, relationship, and so on.
I'd like to change gears slightly onto a different part of financial performance, the dividend, which would be attractive to a lot of retail investors. A 5%, 1.7 times covered. It's an attractive position. What's the medium-term strategy? Is this progressive growth of the dividend? Do you have a stated strategy, or one that you have an ambition towards in terms of returning income to your shareholder base?
Well, of course, I already said that we're an acquisitive company. We're also looking to grow across different fronts, so introduce new products and services into the marketplace. And obviously, they require capital and investment. So we're going to continue to invest in the business and grow the business. So we will be growing, and we will reflect that in the value of the organisation. And if we ever, in the fullness of time, run out of the potential to grow, then we will keep progressively pushing up the amount of our profits that we release into the market in terms of dividend. So we are we're a bit of a blended animal.
You're not ex-growth by any sense?
Absolutely not. We're a bit of a blended animal. Very good yield at the moment, but with lots of potential to grow in home collect credit, plus in very near field opportunities with customers that we don't currently deal with today, but that we can, because of our third front of technological investment, we can deal with them in the future. And indeed, by the end of this financial year, we will be launching a new brand powered by Morses Club, which will be an online brand, which will appeal to a generation of customers that are not home collect credit customers, but that do have a slightly impaired credit history. But younger customers who are looking online for a loan where they can apply within a few minutes, they can be approved within a few minutes after the requisite checks and balances, and then they can receive the money paid into their bank account. And they would repay typically using a direct debit, a standing order, or a continuous card authority. But I stress that this is a very different segment of the community to home collect credit customers. These are people who have a substantial financial footprint. So they are mortgage holders, they have post-pay contracts with gas, electricity, mobile phone companies, and they are therefore very referenceable using the CRAs.
Presumably, given the demographic profile of that group, we're going to have an increasing proportion of people who've come through with £30,000-40,000 worth of student debt, for whom the access to the credit market, the familiarity with the credit market, and the requirements for that kind of service is only going to grow exponentially from this point forward as that cohort grows from post the 9,000 tuition fee base.
We believe so. And at the moment, it's estimated that there are 9 million consumers in that proportion, in that segment of the UK society, versus 3 million in the home collect credit market. So we have plenty of potential to grow into a much larger
Any idea, Paul, say in the next year you're at, say, 200,000 now. Would you be at 240 by the end of 2017, do you think?
In terms of customer numbers?
Yeah.
Difficult to put a figure on
it's
it.
hard, it's impossible.
And because it's a new market that we're entering it with caution, which is the conservative attitude that we take to all of our growth plans. So our aspiration in the first year is to go up to 20,000 customers with that new product.
Right.
And we will feel our way into that market, and we will find the correct balance, the top of the bell curve between the competing factors of growth and impairment, because we accept that impairment in that market will be a little higher,
Right.
because there is more inherent fraud in that market. However, the costs will be much lower, because clearly there's no agent involved, and therefore you're not paying a human being to have that relationship with your customer. So we think the profitability will be equal to home collect credit customers, but there'll just be a different balance between the cost base.
Now, Paul, you're talking to two people who are on very different sides of the Brexit argument, and I'm not going to draw you on your own personal views, but I am going to ask you what your assessment is, the impact that Brexit, as much as anybody understands what the material impact will be, on your business, both as a UK focused company. It's unavoidable that investors will be interested. And have you made an internal assessment? Do you have a personal view?
So I think in the standard financial sector, it creates an opportunity for the non-standard financial sector, because as banks start to retract from customers and shift their position because of the pressures that Brexit has brought about, that opens up a new strata of customers to us who will use our products and services for the first time as the high street banks retract from offering them loans. As far as the macroeconomic environment is concerned, just in general, I think history tells us that players in this particular sector are largely unaffected by it. So if we look back to the credit crunch and we track Provident's performance through that period, for example, they grew in profitability in each year that the effects of that were felt in society. As far as Brexit is concerned, and as far as all of the economic factors are concerned today that affect the macroeconomy, we see the size of our market remain absolutely consistent. So in a positive market, people at the lower end of our segment come up, they become more creditworthy, their hours increase, their household income increases, and they feel more buoyant, and therefore they take a loan and they start to spend more in the economy, and we benefit from that. As the macroeconomy shrinks, people that are slightly above our segment come down into our radar screen, and then we're able to serve them and have them as customers. So largely we remain completely unaffected.
Fascinating. So what would you say is the biggest challenge to Morses Club going forward? Because you presented what I think is a very positive picture, both
Absolutely.
in terms of the macroeconomy and the structural prospects of the business. There must be some things that keep you awake at night.
I think that the main thing is keeping sobriety in the business and not getting too carried away with the opportunity to grow. So it would be very easy to nail ourselves to an overly ambitious growth number because we have so many fronts across which we can grow the business, and that then has the effect of increasing our impairment and our bad debt write-off. So I think it's keeping a steady hand on the tiller, growing in a conservative manner, and not getting too carried away and looking to snap up too many opportunities too quickly.
That's right.
Just before we close, Paul, could I just ask you one question? We established, as far as Morses Club is concerned, the banking licence is a positive thing, the fact you don't have one. Deposit taking, what's the long-term view on that?
We don't have one presently, so
that probably goes with the banking licence.
It goes with the banking
Yeah.
licence. So the amount of regulation and capital requirement that would place upon us, we think would be onerous. So we're fairly wedded right now to having best of class in our supply chain and outsourcing those onerous requirements onto a supplier rather than embracing them ourselves.
I think that's dead right. Lovely.
One final question from me, and this takes you away from Morses Club and to you as CEO. Who are the people who've really inspired you in terms of the values you bring to your day-to-day work through your career? And also, a second part of that, when you're employing your executives, your top team, what do you look for? What are the characteristics of a Morses Club high-performing employee?
Okay, so to answer the first question, I think that Mr. Richer of Richer Sounds is a great example of a good entrepreneurial leader. And the reasons that I say that, just in brief, the training and the quality of his staff and the depth of knowledge about their product. So they truly are experts, and he's encouraged that environment within his retail empire. And it's a very high quality experience when you go and shop with Richer Sounds. So I think he's quite an inspirational chap. In terms of people coming into the business, then the thing that I look for most is the ability to challenge. So it's very, very important for executives in the business, in particular younger generation of managers coming through, that they are not afraid to challenge. So to accept the status quo from more senior colleagues and never challenge that, I think would be a mistake. And I look for people who really have the courage, the determination and the thought process to be able to think outside the box and to challenge the status quo and the norms.
Thank you. Paul Smith, CEO of Morses Club. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Well done. Thanks so much.